I feel like we can't go fast enough.
Yeah.
And so that did lead me to be willing to serve on the Alaska Permanent Fund Board, where we're actually 80 billion, and we're unveiling, and my baby has been our 100 billion strategic plan that we will hit over the next 3 to 5 years. So we're unveiling that next week. And I felt like, while I may have a last name known in private equity, there wasn't a big enough platform to show people why diverse managers could actually outperform. And so if you are the only female on the largest sovereign wealth fund board in the US, and you start telling people we need to allocate more to diverse managers or niche sectors where they're not represented by some of these larger funds, I felt like maybe I would be doing my part to move the needle. I can't build Manitree fast enough to be able to change this, but I will also say what made a lot of Manitree's success was a lot of women CIOs and wealth managers. They've been very helpful. And then oddly, it's a pretty collaborative world. When you meet another another GP like yourself, you get so excited because there's about 5 of us.
Well, we're called an endangered species because there's so few of us, but yeah.
Right, we can't have you guys go anywhere. Well, Ellie, since you mentioned the Sovereign Wealth Fund, tell me the story behind this headline. Alaska's Sovereign Wealth Fund decides to decrease its private equity investment to 15% for fiscal year 25, down from an initial 19% outlined in a 5-year plan from 2020. Tell me what's behind that headline. Is it wrong?
Look, I didn't seek out being on the board of the Permanent Fund. I actually got a call from our governor in Alaska 15 months ago telling me that he hears I'm running around the world, quote unquote, feeding the Middle East. And I said, well, yeah, they understand food security. They import 95% of their food, just like we do in Alaska. He said, great, can you help me? So I ended up building him his Office of Food Security. And through that, he really saw what the tools of private partnership and sophisticated private equity could do. So he asked me to go on the Permanent Fund Board. I said, okay, but I'm not sure a government agency is going to like my view of the private markets. The two don't work at the same pace. And so I went on, I'm the first woman ever to be vice chair, let alone the only professional investor on the board in history. And
Alaska isn't known for its investment professionals?
there was one day we were in executive committee and there were like 12 men. And while I love men and I really love working with the boards, they're all politicians. And so I have to remind them that we're there to maximize financial returns, not to make the legislature mad. But it's been a very interesting dichotomy and I love them. They ask me every day if I wake up and think of changing statutes, and I say, no, I wake up and read the markets.
Right.
So we work hand in hand. But to your point, I felt like I actually could prove to my investors who are wondering what I was doing at the Permanent Fund that I was a fiduciary when they lowered private equity with me on the board. Boy, was my father not impressed. But there's a story behind that I think many sovereigns go through, which is our head of private equity, who really had built out the portfolio of the last decade, had left, and we needed to reshape the team, and more importantly, in this environment, figure out what we're doing. Now, the headline that didn't get picked up on that was they handed our CIO a $5 billion tactical opportunities bucket. And a lot of that was we knew what was going on with private equity wouldn't maybe fit the better investments we were seeing. You guys would probably love to hear this, but he publicly said, and we are definitely a state that does not have an ESG mandate, that if he were going to put capital to work today, it would be in direct oil and gas investments. And I think that Alaska has actually been one of the few global institutions willing to put money into oil and gas investments. And so that was a big reason why we handed him the tactical opportunities, because traditionally private equity had been asset allocators or co-investors with management. But I will tell you that it's going to change, and I urge you all, we will finally be in the $100 billion club when we unveil this, and the only way to pull that off will be to increase private equity. So I won my battle with the CIO.
All right, excellent. We'll be watching out for that. So let's focus on some of your investments as well. You both have allocations within protein. What about your protein, Ellie?
We hate venture capital. We don't take consumer adoption risk. And I'm Alaskan. Manitree was started because I hunted and fished all my own food. There are many of our investors in the audience, and I remember proudly showing them all my hunting pictures or my fishing pictures of how I understood the food supply chain. And what we will tell you is, from an institutional standpoint of allocating capital, 98% of consumers today still eat meat, 97% still eat dairy. And our best performing companies in our portfolio are the meat and dairy companies. Now, within that, they are definitely category leaders or creators of something called regenerative agriculture. So they're better for the environment. They've cut out the feedstock, so nobody's worried about a commodity input. And the consumers still, we were talking about this, the fastest growing category of consumers is what we would call permissible indulgence.
I love that.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to eat a kale salad 3 times a day. I actually want to go to a sports game and enjoy my nachos and have clean meat on there, but I'm happy to have, better for you sour cream and some better for you beef there. And we are seeing those trends continue to play out and really drive the returns in our portfolio.